Welcome, dreamers, to the Dream Dojo live show. Prepare to embark on an extraordinary journey into the realm of dreams, where we unlock the mysteries of the subconscious and discover the profound wisdom that lies within. Tonight, we're honored to have a special guest gracing our stage, none other than the remarkable Chelsey Turpening Coxsey. So, hello, Chelsey, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight. Or, well, your guys' is tonight.
Yeah, it looks a little bright where you are. But just to share a
Yeah.
little bit more about Chelsea's journey, she's not just a life coach, she's a guiding light on a path of self discovery and inner transformation with her expertise in dream analysis and innovative IFS approach. So she illuminates the hidden corridors of the psyche and unveils the treasures of our deepest selves. So, here in the Dream Dojo, we believe that dreams are more than just figments of your imagination. They're powerful gateways to self awareness, offering us insights into our fears, desires, and untapped potential. And with Chelsea by our side, we're about to delve even deeper into the labyrinth of dreams, uncovering the threads that connect us to our true purpose and direction. So, Chelsea, without further ado, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Yes. So I like to start my story out with what kind of got my attention with the dreams in the first place. And so it started a couple years ago, probably closer to 5 now. But so what I was going through at the time was I was having a lot of depression. I was having, and I just had kids, so I was having an identity crisis. A lot of changes were going on in my life, and one of the things that I was really noticing were my dreams. I felt like, even though I felt I was always a dreamer and had interesting dreams, my dreams were starting to show in myself, and it was getting to the point where it was getting really bad. It was starting to really be noticeable. Um, so I started keeping a dream journal at the time, which I had kind of recorded my dreams on and off throughout the years in my early 20s and whatnot. But I felt like once I really started writing it down daily and I was able to notice like very large patterns, I kind of was noticing tracking different parts of myself in some ways. Like I was noticing like I was having conversations with my higher self. I was having interactions with my masculine side. I was interacting with my guides. I was also having experiences kind of in the lower spirit realms or like out of body experiences that were kind of just like real creepy and negative at the time. And, like I really just had no idea where my belief system was in all of this. And, how would I even handle it? What was really going on with it all? So it was very much like a very novice at that point. But what I do say is following the journey of my dreams has led me through my own self-awareness and awakening and like a spiritual awakening. And I never really considered myself spiritualistic at the time. So my dreams really kind of assisted me through all of this, which was why I say now my dreams woke me up. And I love that term a lot. And I've had a couple podcasts and YouTube content in the past kind of describing it more in depth where our dreams are trying to get our attention. They use symbolism in very strange ways and sometimes even extreme ways just to get us to pay attention to it. So my dreams literally changed my life. It changed the way I perceive reality. It's changed the way of my own belief systems. It's changed the way I view myself and how I handle myself on an intimate internal level and how I even choose to live my life. And of course my career as well. Now after all of that process, I eventually went into getting the certifications to create the space for other people. So it's been quite the evolution in its own. And I'm always a student and a teacher at this point. So I'm always still learning and exploring. And I find it to be a very beautiful space.
It's amazing. It sounds like quite the journey, and not always surrounded by light either. I love that you embrace the shadow elements of dream work. It sounds like you're quite familiar with a Jungian approach. I think I've heard you discuss that in the past. Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I first started exploring dreams and trying to find understanding was through the Jungian approaches. And yeah, I have a lot of his books and his psychology book, and they're like scribbled over, marked all over. And I really love Robert Moss a lot too, and his approaches and like shamanic approaches as well. So now it's got a lot more flavor to it. I got a lot of different tools, and I use the internal family system as well. So it's evolved from there. But Carl Jung was my first love in the dreams.
Very cool. Yeah. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that, and what you've learned from studying Jung, and how that plays into your dream work approach.
Okay, so Young was for me at the time. I was just at first it was just for my own personal understanding, and it was more or less like validation in my belief system because something it was just so out there, and like I didn't want to feel like I was crazy or anything like that. So when I started diving into Carl Jung at the beginning, that really helped me find the validation in what I was experiencing and help clarify it logically and spiritually. And then when I started deciding that I wanted to hold dream analysis for other people or as a space, that's when I went through and I started really dissecting how he held his process of dream analysis. And, he really does share a lot of that just even in his books and how, so if you're reading his stuff or even going through any coursework, you do notice that, like I was learning a lot on how he was holding space for others and analyzing dreams. So that's when I started self-analyzing at first. I was just analyzing my own. That was before I even went and learned how to do it, professionally. But it was a huge role in that, learning about archetypes, different, even like the spirit realms, understanding the psychology of it. That's why I love even the internal family system. I feel like it's very like Jungian at its core, but more modern day, more modern of concept. But it's basically psychoanalyzing yourself into different voices or parts and understanding how they interact and have space on the platform during the day and in dreams. Uh, so for anyone who's not familiar with that, the Richard Schwartz has come up with the model for the internal family system. It's breaking yourself down into different parts, like your inner child, your feminine, your masculine, your higher self, your ego, your soul. And through experiences, positive or negative, we can manifest other parts. So some people can have up to like 40 parts. It's however you choose to do it, but there's a lot of really interesting meditations that you can do to kind of access these different parts of yourself. And I've noticed that even though he doesn't use it in a dream analysis way, when I was looking into it personally, I noticed for me, I was like, oh, I see this in dreams all the time. So I went and I applied it to the dream space, and that's how I actually do a lot of my tracking now is through the IFS.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That's not something I'm necessarily familiar with, is the internal family system. But it sounds like that aligns a lot with Jung's approach to universal archetypes. So maybe you can just elaborate a little bit more about what those meditations look like and how you use it in practice.
Yeah, it's surprisingly it's very organic. It's just kind of tapping into yourself. And if I picture that I am my main self, and around me are all the other parts, that I can create a dialogue between them organically. So if it wanted to be your ego to talk to maybe your soul, like I have a lot of that going on right now, where my soul is teaching my ego and back and forth. Even though I see it in dreams, I could also take it to meditation as an example. Um, and usually, say the ego will be sharing its insecurities and fears, and the soul will automatically start comforting and helping the ego release some of that in a very internal wisdom way. But then you could also have like, I've noticed that some of my clients, popular, especially with men, popular one is the inner child with the like masculine side, don't always get along. So like, let's say your feminine nature will usually nurture your inner child, but your inner child might have a negative relationship with your masculine side. So if you sat in meditation, you could try to figure out where that stemmed from or where it came from, and they almost create their own internal dialogue of, which really helps with healing, bringing self-awareness. So I really love that. And originally Richard Schwartz was working with people with split personalities. So he was noticing it from a strong traumatic experiences where people were having the different personalities, let's say, but they were disconnected from themselves and not getting along in this space. We naturally all have those internal parts, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a traumatic experience, that, we naturally have them. And when you're healing, they come together and rebuild connection within themselves. So it's, I know we talk about masculine and feminine a lot in the spiritual aspects, the yin and yang and all that, but there is a lot of aspects to ourselves. So I do like the psychoanalyzing of it. And each part kind of carries its own story, its own dynamic, its own relationship with the other parts as well. So something even common would be the ego and how it tries to manage the system or to be the boss of all the parts. And it tries to take the conscious platform constantly to where maybe your inner child won't have space to be on the platform, or your feminine nature and your masculine are imbalanced and they're not getting the proper platform space. And when I say platform, it's just the conscious part of yourself that, everyone else sees and we bring to the reality of who we are. So in that sense, it would really be trying to balance the whole system out, helping the ego lean into the subconsciousness, which the ego tends to like exile the parts into the unconscious. So that's when we have to go back through and we have to slowly let the ego rebuild its relationship and understanding with each part, and then the parts also within their own dynamics of each other. It's literally like a family system where not all the relatives and people in the family will get along, so you have to go back through and kind of like figure out where the pain and the hurt and what happened, why aren't they getting along, and it can be very organic in that space. When you're meditating, like I don't have to walk people through it. I can just be like, let's talk about it in the session a little bit, go home, do the meditation on your own if you're more comfortable. And they come back and they're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. That was so cool. And, it's really not that hard. I think people will stress or overthink it sometimes, but it's pretty organic. So I like it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, and it definitely made a lot of connections for me personally. One thing I'd like to add is that through exploring technical psychological terms like multiple personality disorder as opposed to dissociative identity disorder, which is now the like accepted term. I always wondered like how language evolves over time and why we gravitate towards certain words, for example. And
Yeah.
my very limited understanding of this is that multiple personality disorder does not acknowledge that everybody has multiple personas, and it's actually quite normal, quite healthy even, that you put on these masks in different social contexts and portray yourself as, let's say, the son in one situation or the father in another, and it's making that identity a cohesive whole to form yourself is what really constitutes a balanced person. Whereas if you have these disconnected personas that don't really associate with each other, then you could leave yourself feeling dissociated. For me personally, that's involved a lot of shadow work. And just recently through dream work, I've realized that in order to live aligned, I must integrate, this aspect of my subconscious lifestyle with who I am as a person publicly. And it's taken a lot of vulnerability, dissolution of ego, if you will. But now I realize that you can let your true colors shine when you really stop living in fear that way. So I've struggled a lot with defining what shadow work is. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that and how you intend to make subconscious aspects of your personality whole by bringing them to consciousness, because it's still something I struggle with.
Yeah. Well, I think shadow work, ideally, I think it holds a lot of things because it's the subconsciousness and there's a lot going on in the subconscious. Either through experiences, the emotions that come along with that. I think that's a big one. But then, of course, when I'm looking at through my own filter, I think of the internal family system as well, and how like we have a lot of exiled aspects of ourselves that we're either shamed of showing, we don't think is proper for like the rest of the society. So I think that's a lot of like re-entering into that space. But I also think it holds a lot of like belief systems and how we perceive not just ourselves, but the reality around us. So I think it really kind of hits the whole baseball field at that point. We have a whole field of different things going on within the subconscious parts of ourselves, if we realize it or not. A lot of the times when we go through shadow work, it's not just healing and bringing things to wholeness. We're changing our belief systems at the same time. We're tweaking and adjusting the system. We're allowing things to come to the conscious platform, which is not just being aware of it, but integrating it into our, our conscious system. Like if it be like your personality or who you are during the daytime, what you let people see about you. That's kind of how I view it in those aspects. And I'm sure there's like a million different ways to describe shadow work, really. But uh, I don't know. That's kind of how I view it a little bit. There's a lot going on. And I always say the subconsciousness is like a very large file cabinet. So there's always something to pull out. If it's breaking patterns or habits, recognizing certain things about yourself, learning how to integrate, to heal, to evolve, you know. So, yeah. I feel like I'm always shadow working even now. I was like, I don't think it ever ends personally. I think we just keep going to deeper layers of it. And then when you get into past life regression stuff, you're like, okay, now we're looking at it at a very larger scale. Be like, oh, maybe I've been doing the same pattern for X amount of lives now. And that takes it to a whole nother level even.
Yeah, so please let's go as deep as you want. Let's figure out um, how far we really can go with this. I haven't discussed too much about past life regression, other than I did have one guest on, Yashin, who talked about his yoga nidra practice and a karmic retribution cycle. So maybe you can share your beliefs on what it means to delve into these past lives and what value it brings to your current life.
Yeah. Um, I'm still in the process of my own. So I've been doing these approaches. I've seen it in dreams a little bit, but mostly I'm noticing that I've been doing shamanic sessions with one of my friends who's a shamanic practitioner. And we dive into past lives a little bit, but I personally try not to overdo it because I feel like you should hold an intention. So for me, I've noticed that if it's something that I'm struggling with in my life currently, and I want to see how far it goes or it keeps coming up, I usually will go to her and just have a session and I won't even bring it up to her, right? And she'll pull it out automatically through her meditative connection to my soul and stuff. But I think it definitely brings it just brings awareness to like not just our lives right now, but I think it mostly highlights our soul and the overall experience our soul has. But yet at the same time, I'm not like going that deep where I'm like, okay, here's 1,000 lives I'm looking at. Like, no, I'm just looking at ones that apply to what I'm struggling with in this life. Because like I think it gets very complex at that point. But like a lot of people want to know, like, why do I exist? What was the point of me wanting to experience life outside of energy? Maybe, like being in a physical body or something. There's a lot to it, but I also see that it can pop up in dreams. I've had some random dreams where like one I had like maybe a month and a half ago, and I don't get like a lot of like past life dreams that much, but one I did have that just really struck me was that I was a Jewish girl at a German school, and we were being raided by the Germans. And I remember running and trying to hide with a few other students, and that they had like caught me. And it was just like this really freaked out feeling. But then when I thought about it and went through some shamanic work with it, I realized that I'm still holding on to some of that pattern in this life, that I have this fear of being sought out or caught or being stuck, not having control of my own life, and things like that. So it was something that still held an effect. I personally don't think it's a good idea to just go digging things up necessarily unless you need to, or you're noticing a calling to give it recognition or awareness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does actually. I think in the grand scheme of things, sort of like zooming out beyond our current timeline can allow us to really see things from a different perspective. And it shows that, some of the things we're experiencing now in this lifetime uh, go much deeper than just one person's life. And it sort of speaks to the universal nature of consciousness and archetypes again, right? How these
Yeah.
patterns have this cyclical effect, and they tend to repeat themselves. So usually I don't like to discuss questions as we're talking, but I saw somebody drop something in the comments I'd like to ask you about. So a Facebook user, unfortunately I can't see their names. It says, last 2 nights I dreamed about my mother. She was so angry with me, like she usually was in real life. She left 2 months ago, or I'm sorry, 2 months after my father, together in life and death. Even in death, she is still angry. I hope she found her peace at least there. And then somebody, and then the same person commented and said, is it still me feeling guilty that I couldn't make her happy? What do you think about that, Chelsey?
Now that is interesting because when you made the comment first, it sounded like you were speaking from your internal wisdom and you knew the answer to it, in the sense that maybe she is still angry. And I do feel that even in death, um, we can hold on to emotions. I also believe there's certain realms where that is possible. So maybe she is still angry, but I also feel that it probably does mirror back to you, as you were saying, feeling guilty as well. I say deep down, the dreamer always knows the meaning of their dreams. I cannot tell someone that they're right or wrong. Um, well, especially wrong. I'm not going to tell any dreamer that they're ever wrong about the meaning of their dream, because one of the techniques I use is to just pull it out of the dreamer and out of your own internal wisdom. So I would ask, do you feel that you were actually experiencing your mother in your dreams? Or do you feel it was your consciousness in a symbolic form that you were experiencing? And depending how you answered that, then I would go to the second portion of your question, where it's if it is your subconscious reflection of her and the experiences that were going on in the real time life with her, then maybe you are holding some guilt or something in that level, which I think that would be very normal, honestly, too, especially when someone's passed away. So you did feel like it was her. Okay. See, that's a good one. So then maybe she is still angry, or she is communicating something that she's hoping that you will connect to with that. Maybe you know that deep down there was something you were doing that was upsetting her. I know parents, they really want what's best for us. So maybe it was something along those terms, um, where she's still trying to encourage you, maybe through using your past experiences as part of the message, even. Would that make sense? Um, it could be a lot of things, honestly, but I do feel it's good to kind of find clarity if you felt like you were actually experiencing her, and what do you think her message to you would be. I don't think past loved ones come back just to haunt us with their anger. um, I think maybe she is trying to guide you, is kind of a sense I'm getting. I wouldn't be surprised if she's trying to guide you, using that a little bit.
Yeah, I think those are all great points, and I love how your approach is centered around the dreamer themselves and what meaning they take from the dream. So, a couple of things, just reading through your comments. Your second question was, is it still me feeling guilty that I couldn't make her happy? And then you said that you felt it was her. So, when I recently had a dream of my father after he passed away, I was asked the same thing. Did you feel like he was really there? And I gave, the ultimate qualifying response. And I said, it doesn't matter because it felt like he was there in my heart, his presence, his essence. And my advice for you would be to explore those feelings of guilt and to wonder what role you play in that relationship. Because if she was truly an angry person, there's nothing you can really do to change another's behavior. However, you can control how you react to that behavior. And so now in waking life, you might be left with this guilt. It's a very human reaction. Actually, it's a part of, the 7 phases of grieving, including denial first, right? It's hard to believe that that person is gone. And then we feel guilty for all the things we could have, should have, would have done while they were here. And especially when they visit us in the dreams, it feels like there's problems left unsolved. So I would encourage you through lucidity, actually, which is what I love to work with, to sort of take control of the dream and to bring your consciousness to the table during that interaction and to shift the narrative. Maybe ask these questions of your mother and yourself. Why were you always so angry? You know, what can I do to help you now? Is there some way we can make peace? And then just explore those emotions, really lean into that potential fear you may be feeling, and see where it takes you. Because although it may just be a dream or your projections of that memory, the true healing can still occur in that space.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, what do you think about that, Chelsea? Do you do any lucidity or in your
Yeah,
dream work practice?
I don't work with it too much like as a skill, but I know it's a popular one. So you can use it with intention, but something I've been practicing with, especially in my sessions where we're not actually dreaming, we're awake, is the meditation part. So like tapping back into the dream reentry, creating dialogue with dream characters or maybe spirits or something consciously outside of yourself. And then also asking your soul. I always think that's a good one. So you could always go into a quiet meditative space. Don't overthink it. Usually, what comes to surface first as a response is accurate. I think sometimes we logically try to edit the dialogue and we just need to let it flow organically. Um, and if it is your mother, create the conversation to have that with her and see what the responses would come. And you can also ask your soul, like, what is the message for me in all of this that I need to have some awareness on. Um, and you'll be surprised how easy it is actually to have that. I always say, try to not overthink it. Don't let your thoughts, think, oh, I'm doing this wrong. That wasn't the right answer. It's usually what comes to surface first is accurate. And I do find that meditation is a really good space for that as well. Lucid dreaming is a good one as well, especially if you're a skilled lucid dreamer and you know how to recreate the dream scenes or invite the characters to come back and be lucid with it. That's a great way to either confront something that's negative, like a nightmare, even, right? Or a bad dream character, or just to have more dialogue in general. So, like, those are all really great skills to be able to practice, especially as a dreamer.
Yeah, so one takeaway I had from this user's comment is that it's the last 2 nights they dreamt of their mother. And I'm a big believer in the power of three. So I'd like to plant the seed and make you believe that tonight you're going to have that dream again, because it seems as if there's some unresolved conflict there you need to address. And the sheer realization that I've just had this dream, and it's my mother again, she's angry, should set off a light bulb in your head that, hey, I know where I am. I'm dreaming, and this is my chance to, take control and find some answers. So through that realization, I think is where some of the best work occurs, because I don't necessarily believe you should use lucidity to change your dream, but being a conscious observer in that space allows you to sort of direct the dream. And so, yeah, I encourage you to, even if it's not tonight, maybe incubate that dream once more to find the answers that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But thank you, Chelsea, for addressing that. I think you had some great advice. I want to learn a little bit more about your analysis practice, because I've heard a lot of great techniques, and I love the fact that you're focused on the dreamer themselves. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've also mentioned using tarot in your practice as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. Not with
Awesome.
everybody. It depends on the dreamer. Sometimes they bring their own cards, but I do think there's a lot to it. Something I've noticed with the flow of symbolism is
Hmm.
that when I'm analyzing the dreams in the symbolic language and what it means, it kind of reminds me of the same organic flow as like tarot cards. So, and they always go hand in hand. So it's a good one. So
Cool.
we'll use it to clarify symbolic meaning, maybe a call to action, just to dig deeper into. You can use them in a million different ways. I use it to get more specific, or even use it to just, like, some clients like to have it just as an extra backup of confirmation, even.
Okay, Chelsea, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have your tarot cards with you laying around somewhere there?
Yeah, hold on. Let me grab my book too, because I always like to use my book.
Cool. I love that. I've got like the tiniest deck of tarot cards ever. They're like literally this big. Oh, cool.
I got my book of tarot.
Yeah, I love the
Because I'm not
Rider
the
Waite.
best at memorizing all of the card meanings. I know some people are great, and I've been doing them for years, and I still always use my book.
Cool. I agree. One thing that I've used in my own practice when working with tarot cards is it aligns a lot with what you said, and that's your first impression is usually right. So, regardless of all the symbols and latent meanings woven into those, pictures, just take a look at the card and examine how it makes you feel first. And that usually leads you down a sense of intuition that guides the rest of the reading, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
And something that I really love about symbolism is that it's individual to each person and it's your own emotional connection to the symbolic meaning. So if you have a dream dictionary, I would totally ditch it because that's just going off the mass collective. And it's not really personable to like your emotional feeling of it. But also the symbolism evolves in its meaning. So what it means to you the morning you dreamt it, if you look back on it 6 months later, even it will have more in-depthness and clarity to it. And you may have even experienced some of it or had some like resolution to it. And you'll be like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I always say I don't interpret one dream. I interpret all the dreams. I believe that dreams are small puzzle pieces that create a very large picture. So when you're writing down your journals and you're having even a year or a couple years worth of dreams and you look back at it, you'll start seeing this very large picture of yourself symbolically. Um, it's very cool.
I love that.
Okay, so
Recently,
we're
yeah, actually, I would love for you to do a reading for me. Usually, I like to touch the cards myself to sort of imbue that energy into it, but I feel like we have a connection here virtually, and I
yeah,
would love for you to use your intuition to pull a card you feel that resonates with me. Sometimes I'll just shuffle until one drops out or falls a weird way or
that
presents
does happen.
itself. Sometimes the cards are backwards for some reason. um but yeah, just whatever type of reading. I know there's a million different spreads you could do as well, so maybe just one card.
Okay, we got the Eight of Cups, and he's hold
Cool.
on, see, all right. I believe cups usually represent a family dynamic. Let me look. It represents a lot. I think it's internal too. Okay, I'm not going to read all this whole thing because it's like 2 pages worth. They get in a lot of detail. Eight of Cups, deeper meaning, moving on, and weariness. Focusing on personal truth, leaving a rat race, looking for answers, concentrating on what is important, starting on a journey of discovery, finding out the facts, devoting more time to the spiritual. Realizing current cycles is over, abandoning in hopeless situations, disentangling yourself, starting on a trip of unknown length, or letting go. Feeling drained by demands, dragging through the day, feeling tired and listless, lacking energy, losing hope, getting weighed down by worries, becoming burnt out. Kind of sounds like, in a
Yeah,
way, it's almost like leaving the rat race a tad bit.
yeah, I'd say a lot of that resonates. Some of it sounds a little negative, but maybe that reflects my current mindset. um Recently, I would say that I have been definitely leaving the rat race. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I spend most of my free time at night when everybody else is asleep pursuing this passion of mine, which is dream work. And recently,
Yeah.
it's taken me to some really exciting places, and I've decided to help organize a startup called the Lucid Dream Initiative. And we're on our way to becoming a 501c3 nonprofit in July of this year. But we're sort of in the weeds of things right now. We're working out our bylaws, we're drafting conflict of interest policies, we're recruiting people for positions that we didn't even know we needed to fill, and it's been quite the journey. But there's also this hidden level of family dynamics that I have going on outside of just my own personal practice. And I would say, I'm at that balance beam of, maintaining my own health and self-care, along with, caring for others, including, my toddler, and, the animals we've rescued, and, my family going through some trouble. And so, um, very quickly I find myself having to manage my time better than ever because I feel busier than ever, despite not having a corporate level job like I'm used to, or reporting to that 9 to 5. Monday through Friday has taken on a whole new meaning for me, and this sense of time dilation has really been warped. Um, so yeah, it's been quite the journey for me personally to discover. How I spend my time and where I put my energy. So if that helps just explain that card resonated a lot, it really
Yeah.
does feel like I can see myself in that picture as that guy walking away from the 8 cups. So maybe we can just dive a little bit deeper into the symbolism. What are cups? Am I correct in saying they are emotions? Is that correct?
I think they are emotions. Let me just confirm this really quick because I always get
It's
them
been a
a
while since
little
I've like
mixed.
really, dived into this myself, but that's my guess.
Yeah, I think it is. I know I'm always thinking of it as, yeah, emotions and relationships, the matter of the
And
soul.
relationships. Wow.
I see. I knew
So
it had to do with relationships. I always think of it as family and emotions personally. Um,
yeah, I can probably think of 8 family members right now that I've been sort of like working with myself. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I always, when I see cups, I sort of think of this phrase I use a lot, which is you can't pour from an empty cup. So like if I were to like place myself into that card and take back control of the narrative, I'm saying that I'm not leaving my family behind. I'm just heading over this way towards the water so that I can fill my cup before returning to to share it.
returning back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's however, whatever story you give yourself, I believe that is the answer. Because it is our own emotional connection to it. So it makes it fun.
Cool.
And I always create my own
Um,
layouts slowly, like, because I'm really bad at following rules. So I got to make up my own.
all right, now I'm gonna play this out one more time. I'd love you to pull a card for yourself and to share a little
For
bit of
me.
your own analysis because it's a little
Oh,
harder, I find, to turn the mirror on yourself. It's easier for somebody else to kind of like, point the mirror at you, if that makes sense. I just want to see what
yeah.
you come up with based on your meanings because I know it's different for everybody.
Okay. Page of Swords. I think that's a bit
Hey, just
novice. If
wait.
I
I
can
gotta see it. You gotta show us.
Oh,
Cool.
sorry. Such a
I
weird image.
love the Rider Waite pictures. They're so classic.
Oh yeah, I do love the traditional. I have some other cooler ones, but this is the deck I constantly use. Um, I believe a page is usually kind of novice. Use your mind, be truthful, be just, have fortitude. Analyze the problem, use logic and reason, re examine beliefs, develop an idea or plan, study or research the facts, learn or teach, think everything through. To be truthful, to act honestly, face the facts, stop deceiving, clear up any confusion, expose what is hidden, and speak directly. To be just, right a wrong, act ethically, treat others equally, champion a cause, to be fair, accept responsibility, and acknowledge the other point of view. Having fortitude, face problems squarely, refuse to be discouraged, to meet setbacks and renewed energy. Keep a firm resolve, move out of depression, keep your chin up and head high, and keep trying. So I'm going through a transition in my life. I recently I'm going through divorce and separation. Something I was afraid of being with a single mom with also two little boys that are 4 and 5, right? And I am in Australia at the moment, and I'm experiencing a lot of growth, like romantically. I'm trying to do the shadow work and my own insecurities, but I'm also trying to be independent and learn to thrive on my own. To be a single mom, I'm got two businesses that I'm running, my jewelry line that I've been manufacturing since COVID, and also the dream analysis, right? Which I'm still structuring, learning how to build avatars and come up with a niche and all these business concepts where I feel like my brain just goes in circles a lot. So I feel like this represents a lot of this transitioning phases of just trying to stand on my feet, be confident in myself and what I'm capable of. Try not to let the ADHD brain go crazy and like freak out. So yeah, and Page of Swords is pretty good. I mean, they're standing there confidently. They seem like they're very comfortable holding the sword and they know what they're doing. So I believe when I look at it even visually, I am capable, to hold my own sword and my own strength and have this, if this is how I envision how I want my life to be, I believe I can go out there and do it and conquer that. And it's no easy task. It'll take steps, but I believe that it brings out its own shadow work within myself, probably holding some of the not negative portions, but being fair, finding the truth. There were a few other ones in there. Keep a firm resolve, move out of depression, keeping your chin up high, to keep trying, a champion, a cause, to treat others equally, which that would probably be some of the dynamics of some of the pain that I've been through in the last couple of years. Transmutation.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really
Like his
do.
personal life a little bit more.
Yeah, it's okay. It's powerful stuff. And just by going through it ourselves, I feel like other people, you know, get inspired, honestly, um, to find their own personal power. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time to do that. Um,
Yeah. And
and
to go back to the dreams, I've been experiencing a lot of these emotions and insecurities, pulling up the shadow work, finding clarity a lot in the dreams as well. So, like I'm a very active dreamer. Like I don't know why, but in the last like couple months, I've been like remembering 5 dreams a night, and they do resolve a lot of like feeling of like going through a maze. The There's a dream I always have on and off through a certain emotions of that is the tower that I call my tower card dreams, because in tarot you have the tower card, right? And I think anyone that's familiar with tarot, they're like, oh, the tower card, or you're like up high in the tower and you're trying to get grounded down, right? And I have a lot of dreams where I'm in skyscrapers, and I always say they're my tower card dreams. And they represent an emotion of how I'm feeling in my daytime. So there is a lot of back and forth with that, and I don't know. I love the practice and the flow of both of them.
yeah, those visual metaphors have a way of leaving a subconscious impression upon our sleeping minds. And I'll just share really quickly a story about my tower dream. I've only had a couple of these, but one was really trippy. I was in a skyscraper, and it was like an office sort of building because I feel like there was like cubicles and stuff around, but all surrounded by windows. And I remember seeing this helicopter come flying in and getting really close to the windows, watching it, like almost making impact. And I sort of like closed my eyes and braced for the crash. And when I opened my eyes, I was inside of the helicopter without control. So I had shifted from inside the building, waiting for the crash. Um, sorry, died. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My audio quality probably just dropped off of the tower itself, but hey, that's okay. But yeah, that was a really trippy experience for me, and especially being afraid of heights. That was one that took some time to grapple with. But we do have another question in there. I just want to hop over to the chat really quick. Somebody said you were wonderful, Chelsey, and I agree. I've loved this conversation so far. Thank you so much for making this time. And then the next person said, "What is the difference between change and direct dream?" I'm not really sure
I don't know what you
what I
mean
mean
by
by that
that.
question. Yeah, Lane, if you could just elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that question, we'll be happy to answer it for you. And then another thing you said, Chelsey, was that you have your own jewelry line. I actually didn't know that about you. So maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that. Me and my wife have our own small jewelry business we started during the pandemic. And it's all about crystals
Really?
and gemstones. Yeah.
We should
So,
talk after this. Yeah. Okay. So Mine is also natural stones. I'm wearing my tiger's eye right now, and so my
Amazing. That's one of my
yeah,
favorites.
they're okay. I'll just take it off real quick. They're gold plated. It's called Fish London. My friend had designed them, and during COVID, the company that owned the original rights went bankrupt, and I grabbed the rights to it. So it's got this dangle tail, so it kind of hangs
Wow.
real beautiful. It's gold plated, and I made sure to have it like a really good quality. Like I've worn this in the ocean and stuff, and it's solid.
Amazing.
You can change out the beads, and right now they're just natural stones, but I do plan on like evolving into like crystals, getting more stones, and maybe even trying to design some dangles. It's a charm bracelet ultimately, so you can wear one of these or multiple, and they have the stoppers and stuff. So
Wow.
uh,
Another
yeah.
synchronicity, which I love the fact that you can customize it as well. That is awesome.
Mhm.
And I would
Oh
definitely
yeah.
want to check that out.
Oh, and we did I was doing energy work. And I love mythology a lot, so I started using the goddesses and infusing energy into the stones. So the tiger's eye has Medusa's energy into it, and I write little stories of the
Sweet.
inspiration for it on my website. I don't post a lot about it on Facebook right now because I get it's again the ADHD. I'm like all over the place. But
It's okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I would love to hear it. I would love to see that. And maybe I can share a little bit of my journey into crystals with you. So, the first
Yeah.
stone, one of the first ones I came across was something called moldavite. Are you familiar with that?
What is it?
It's called moldavite, moldavite, maybe if I put a little
Um,
twang on it. So it's actually a tektite. Technically, it's glass, but it has a crystalline structure. And the story is that like 14 million years ago, this meteor crashed down to Earth and hit with such force that it actually sent or like terrestrial matter back into the atmosphere and rained down this molten mixture of asteroid with Earth material. And when it cooled, that's what formed the glass like structure of this green tektite moldavite. And it's like super trippy because the first time I encountered it, I told this guy, I was like, yeah, I'm into dream work, anything that can help me remember, my intention to remember my dreams and work with them. And he's like, oh, I got something for you. And when he took this little piece out, like this big, and put it in my hand, almost immediately I felt what they refer to as a moldavite flush. I felt warm. I felt like this little stone was so much denser and heavier than I would have anticipated it being. And,
yeah.
as much as I didn't want to feel something, I still did. And he encouraged me to just take it home for a nice hefty price. And and just even if I were to leave it in my drawer, to pay attention over the course of a month how my life would change. And I would have never imagined in that time that I would have quit my wonderful job and met my wonderful wife, moved out of my house, rushed into a relationship, and done something I'd never done before. And sure enough, the placebo effect, if nothing else, had taken hold of me and showed me that there's so much more to this life than you may consciously comprehend. And
Yeah.
eventually it led us to a journey of sharing these crystals and gemstones with other people, laden with their meanings. But the myth of moldavite, it goes so much deeper than that. Um, I love hearing the geographic origin. Like somebody said, moldavite is only found in Moldova, which
Yeah.
is correct. Yep. Because that's where the asteroid, had crashed. But then there's the whole, associations with it. So synchronicity is one of the most commonly associated things with Moldavite itself. And before I knew it, it was like the more I noticed it, the more it happened. There would be these things I mentioned in waking life that would find themselves not only in my dreams, but in these, symbolism all over the place. I would recognize it, and it was like, flashing green lights just showing me, hey, you're going the right direction. Hey, pay attention to this. What if I showed you that? And it really just opened my eyes to a whole new reality. So that's my little story about Moldavite. When I met my wife, actually, she had a little crystal hanging from her neck, and I never even really noticed that there was like this whole layer of jewelry laden with personal meaning hidden behind it. And I was so inspired to wonder, like, what is that? What does that mean to her? What associations does it have? You
Yeah.
know, and why does she have a piece like this too? And it was just immediately a spiritual connection we made with these stones. And sure enough, it led us down our own journey of sharing that with other people, and it was a truly enlightening experience. I love your jewelry. I definitely want to check it out more. So maybe you can share with people. We got a few minutes left until the hour mark. Where can people find it if they want to check that out themselves and buy some?
Yeah, it's fishlondon.com, but fish is Phiiiish, uh, kind of like the band,
Three eyes.
three eyes. Um, and
Okay.
it's also on my website, like or on my Facebook profile. I've got the link on there too. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I always say it's not just another piece of jewelry. It's something that complements your soul. It's like this spiritual identity. That was kind of like the goal with it eventually, to have like maybe some astrology charms and like the stones and the crystals and things that you feel represent your own emotional connection to it. So it's not like it based off your hobbies. It's based off of your spiritual identity.
Sweet. Yeah, I firmly believe that everybody has a stone that's calling to them. And usually, you can be attracted to something without understanding why, and then even look into it after the fact, much like a tarot card. And, through that divination, you can find meaning that resonates with you. So I think what you're doing is wonderful there. Um, but Elaine wants to know, can you pull a card for her? So maybe we'll do this really quickly if Chelsea's game, and then we've got 5 minutes left, so we'll wrap things up with any other questions you have. But Elaine wants to know, could you pull a card for me and my wild lucid dreams? So yeah, I guess
Okay.
I guess that's the intention there. Maybe
Yeah,
let's.
set your intention. If it's a dream character or if you're trying to understand the symbolism, try to be a little bit more specific with what a part of the dream you're inquiring on. And you don't have to share it with us. I'll just pull the card, and you'll know how it resonates.
Thank you so much for doing this, Chelsea. I didn't anticipate doing tarot readings here live, but hey,
I've
I'm
never done
amazed.
this before. It's kind of fun. We got the magician.
Sweet. That is wild for sure.
It's a good one. And it is the first card of the major arcanas. So, or no, not the first. The fool is the first. It's the second. Okay. The magician, action, conscious awareness, concentration, and power. Okay, it's taking action, doing what needs to be done, realizing your potential, making what's possible real, practicing what you preach, carrying out plans, producing magical results, using your talents. Acting consciously, knowing what you are doing and why, acknowledging your motives, understanding your intentions, examining the known situation. Concentrating, having singleness of purpose, being totally committed, applying the force of your will, feeling centered, setting aside distractions, focusing on a goal. Experiencing power, making a strong impact, having vitality, creating miracles, becoming energized, feeling vigorous, and being creative. That's a good one. And it honestly, I don't know exactly what your intention was with it, but for me, just you said the talking of the lucid dream and having the magician with the lucid theme sounds very cool.
Yeah, we
I
talked earlier.
hope there's clarity in that.
It sounds like there was. If I know Elaine, then that gave her some sense of direction. Elaine, let us know in the comments if that's something that really rings true for you. But we mentioned symbols earlier. We were talking about the tower and the cups being associated with relationships or emotions, and the magician, on the other hand, he's got the table with all of the symbols in front of him. So it's like which direction do you go? And just in context, you said wild lucid dreams. I don't think she means wake induced. I think she means they're actually like pretty wild. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe just take Chelsea's advice and focus on what needs to be done. Try to uh, target one area of your dreams that interests you and just look deeper into it.
Yeah.
But we've got a couple minutes left. Chelsea, this has been an amazing conversation. I love what you're doing with your dream analysis and, incorporating Jungian psychology into it, including archetypes and tarot readings. It sounds like you're an awesome person, and I would love to learn more about what you do. Where can people find you, and what are you working on currently?
Yeah, so my website is chelseaturpeningcoxsey.com. You're more than welcome to follow my Facebook profile. I got all my links on there too, because you might miss it here in a few. I also am offering a 5 dream sessions for 500, which is my dream bundle discount. For it's a good way to dip your toes into the experience if anyone is interested. I also offer, of course, the one-on-one sessions, but I'm starting to develop group sessions as well, which are going to be bi-weekly for 3 months at 250. And I think, I'll probably have a few at some point let develop, but we're doing group work. We're doing the dream entry. We're doing shared dream experiences through meditation. I'm teaching some really cool stuff. It's going to be kind of a bit like special skill, but I'm excited to practice and have people experience different techniques through meditation with their dreams, finding clarity, releasing it, and also being able to kind of have a community support within the group on a bi-weekly basis. So if anyone is interested in that, I'm trying to get that going by, I believe, March 10th. I'm probably going to move it back a little bit because I might be flying, but we'll be starting those here like within the next month. If anyone is interested in the group sessions, just email me or message me on Facebook. I'm pretty chill with all of it.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. We do have one more comment coming through. It says, is it the belief systems and the connection systems with the universal consciousness getting answers all the time or all the same, no matter what they are? I mean, I realize that no matter what language we are talking to universal consciousness, we get answers all the same. So it is not about the language, but about the interpretation. Yeah, so just it sounds like you answered your own question. And I agree that language is actually very interesting in dreams. It turns out that the language processing center of your brain is mostly inactive while you're sleeping. So perhaps that's why they say you can't read text or even understand like math while you're dreaming. But there's still an energetic charge there that can lead you to conclusions intuitively. Chelsey, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And it's also, I believe Robert Moss is the one that calls it dream source, kind of almost implying that even though the dreams come from us, maybe it also comes from something externally outside of us as well, like something connecting or talking to us. It's very spiritualistic, and he's very shamanic with his approaches. So it's a
Okay, well, let's end on like maybe a note for some beginners because I notice a lot of people on my personal page are just getting into dream work and they have no idea where to start. So, what advice would you give to somebody who might not even remember their dreams? However, they're interested, they want to start. What would be the next step?
I would start journaling them in the mornings and practicing reflection, because normally when we give the attention to our dreams, they start to kind of pour out like a water faucet. And I've noticed that over and over with a lot of people. It's like if consciousness or mindfulness could be a muscle, you build it over time. The more you give attention to it, the easier it gets. And I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, because there might be times where you don't remember dreams or it gets a little quiet. That's fine. Honestly, you might appreciate it after a while. Um, and there's a lot of great material out there that, dreams are very common these days. People are talking about it constantly in different filters. So I would just start picking up some books and reading up on it. I wouldn't worry so much about dream dictionaries, because you're looking for your own personal language through it. So at the end of the day, it's how the dreams are making you feel emotionally. If you can't remember what the dream scenes were exactly, you could try to re-enter through meditation, or just remembering how they make you feel, because at the end of the day, it's a very emotional language as well. So just, some just little tips for the beginning, and it does evolve from there, and you'll get really good at it.
I love it. Set the intention, do some research, pick up a book. Don't beat yourself up about it. All great advice. Chelsey, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking time to join me. whatever time it is there, wherever you are in the world today, international traveler. So I look forward to seeing so much more from you and connecting later. We'll definitely be talking more, I'm sure.
Perfect. Enjoy your guys' evening. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right. Peace and sweet dreams, everybody. Have a great night.